Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. We continue with our discussion on Sri Lanka. Major Shah, your thoughts and views on this first, and then we discuss the way ahead for Sri Lanka.
Gauri, the writing on the wall was actually very clear, though that's a different thing. People were going to Sri Lanka for holidays before the pandemic and they were coming. But they were slowly slumping into this trouble, which some analysts have analyzed earlier. And India had given them a $2.8 billion aid in the month of February and March, in fact, because we had analyzed that situation. And as they say, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And as Rajapaksa brothers are very close, as we heard the Sri Lankan MP talk, that Rajapaksas were very much pro-China, of course, but now I think they would have woken up. They would have realized who their actual friends are and who will stab them in the back. And I hope Pakistan has taken a learning from this, because Pakistan is going the same way. I can see the same, in fact, worse situation happening in Pakistan in very, very soon. Very soon. So now, if the government topples, which is going to, Wednesday he said he will put up a resignation, and people were demanding for a resignation earlier. Well, had he done that earlier, then perhaps the sentiments of the people, I believe, should always be respected. The emotion of the people, of what they say, it has to be respected. If it's not respected, it will lead to a lot of public anger, a lot of rage. That's what we saw in Sri Lanka. And on 15th August last year, 2021, we saw Taliban taking over Afghanistan. But those people were illiterate. Those were terrorists. Those were like really brutal people. I mean, they were. But here in Sri Lanka, we have cultured, sophisticated people. Now, what led them to go to such an extent? Because obviously, there was so much of anger into them that the images we saw, lakhs of people were just mounting on lakhs of them. And of course, now the IMF has already said that Sri Lanka is already in trouble. They have no money. See, it's very simple, basic economics. If you have to take a loan, even in a bank, if you have to go to a bank, first you have to prove to the bank a guarantee that you do not actually need the loan. The common sense is that because you have a guarantee, you have to loan for the reason. Here they do not have any money. There is no. How will just imagine a situation where there are no trains to travel, the limited trains. So as a result, everyone is jumping to that train. Any person who's traveled in the general compartment of a train, like I have traveled several times, I would know, or unreserved, they would know. Or you don't have fuel in your car to even go to the hospital for a medical thing. You are taking long lines to buy a simple thing, a simple daily requirement like bread.
Right. Could Major Shah now see a bailout package happening, be it IMF, World Bank, countries, a consortium of countries coming together? What can be done to sort of bail Sri Lanka out now, because it's becoming very difficult and economically unviable for them right now?
Absolutely. I totally agree with Ambassador Goel. In fact, he has spoken word out of my mouth, and in fact, the only way to bail them out is we did our bit. $2.8 billion in February, March is not a small amount for India, because we are not a very rich country either. But they say a friend in need is a friend in need. Now the international community together has to come forward on humanitarian grounds and come forward and help Sri Lanka. Now, secondly, one more thing, a very important, a very pertinent point is China should themselves step forward but they would not. They would not. Because of various reasons, but China ideally should step forward and say that, oh, you are in trouble, let me be a bit graceful to you, which any of the debtors would do. In normal life, in practical life as well, when you see such a bad state of affairs happening. So the international community, IFS, as Master Goel said, their focus is towards Ukraine, not towards Sri Lanka. And also another reason being because they know Sri Lanka is broke. Ukraine has a lot of support from the West. And that support, the American support, the UK support, right. But Sri Lanka has, but they do not have an overwhelming support like the way Ukraine has. Ukraine is not even a member of NATO, but they are being treated as if they would have all the support from the Western powers like NATO. So that is the reason why people are a little apprehensive to come forward like IMF or to bail out Sri Lanka. Now the people over there can do a lot, because as the change of government happened, the change of Prime Minister happened from Rajapaksa, it came to Vikram Singh. But they could not do much. No one, one cannot work out a miracle overnight or a strategy where you can bail them out overnight. So people of Sri Lanka also have to understand that yes, their temper is legitimate, it is understood, but the kind of activities they are indulging in right now, arson, they will lead to further loss of the economy. Already the economy is in doldrums, where the president will be sailing on the boats in the seas, in comfort, in luxury and comfort. It will be the people who will suffer. So the people have, if they're listening to me, anybody in Sri Lanka, please somehow, they say the universe would listen, please try not taking law in your hands, because ultimately they will shut out the force. Like sometime back they said, okay, shoot at sight orders in Sri Lanka, which is not a good sign at all, it's not a good thing at all. So yes, the people have to unite, and it is them who have to help the economy. By change of government, miracles will not work overnight.
All right, Major Shah, appreciate you joining us. I would also like to thank Ambassador Goyal for joining us this morning for this discussion.